Okay, we're looking at these last 6 problems from yesterday, and they're talking about adding and subtracting square roots, radicals, and variable expressions. Okay, so if they have the same number inside your radical, and they're to the same root or the same fraction, you can just put them together. So if we go 2 minus 1, we just get 1 to the 5th root 3 or to the 5th root 3. That's it. Just subtracting those numbers in front. So B, see how these are both 2? See how these are both to the 1/8? So I'm just looking at the numbers in front. 7 plus 4 is 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. No, everybody's just letting me count. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 11, 2 to the 1/8. Okay. Are these both a square root? Are these numbers, these letters both inside here the same? 4 plus 2 is 6 square root x. Yep. So the top should be really self-explanatory, right? If they're the same in the inside, the square root or raised to a power, if the power or the root is the same, you just add the numbers in front or subtract the numbers in front. Okay. Now what if they're not? So I've got 24 to the 1/3 and 3 to the 1/3. So I've got to figure out what times what would give me 24 that I can take to the 1/3 or the 3rd root. Now remember, the 3rd root is, or taking it something to the 1/3 is like you multiply 3 things by each other. Like 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. Is there something that I can multiply to get 24? Like 2 factors, where one of them I can multiply 3 things by the same number. Okay, so let's think of factors of 24. We've got 1 and 24 is not going to help us, right? 2 and 12. Is there any number that if I multiply it 3 times I get 12? No. So 2 and 12 isn't going to work. What about 3? Not 9, but 8. What 3 things can I multiply to give me 8? 2. 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 is 8. So that one works. So we got 8 times 3 to the 1/3, and I'm just going to bring down minus my 2 times 3 to the 1/3. Okay? Now I'm going to take out that 8 and make it a 2. So I'm going to go 5 times 2, because 2 times 2 times 2 gives me 8. And then I have 3 to the 1/3 minus 2 times 3 to the 1/3. Okay? What's 5 times 2? 10. So I have 10 times 3 to the 1/3 minus 3, 2 times 2 minus 2 times 3 to the 1/3. Jeez. What's 10 minus 2 now? 8. So 8 times 3 to the 1/3. And I'm finally done. Okay, so there was a little bit of a process here, right? We had to think about how I could change 24, and then I bring that outside that 1/3, and then I'm just subtracting. So coming up with this, I think, was the hard part. Knowing that the 1/3 of 8 to the 1/3 gives me 2. Okay? So it's a little bit complicated with that. 27 and 12. We have to make the insides of these match. Okay? So what goes both into 27 and 12 evenly? What number? 3. So if I take 27, 3 times what gives me 27? 9. Plus what times 3 gives me 12? 4. Okay. Is 9 a perfect square? What times what gives me 9? 3. So I get 3 square root 3 plus what times what gives me 4? 2. So I get 2 square root 3. 3 plus 2 is? So I get 5 square root 3. Yeah? Okay. F. We've got the 3rd root of y plus 4 to the 3rd root of y. Did these match? Are these both the same? Are these matching? Okay, so I can just add them together. So I get 5 third root of y. You guys like this better than conics?
Yeah.
Okay, I think we should probably try some of your homework. Does that sound good? Because we only did 6 examples of these. I want to do a couple more for your homework to feel like we're really confident. Okay? All right, so let's look through these. I think the first ones seem pretty easy, so let's get ones where the insides are different. Maybe 10? Want to try 10? Okay. So I need, underneath the square root, it to be the same. So what, does 6 go into 54 evenly? Ugh. So 54 divided by 6 gives me 9. So I'm going to get 2 square root 6, I leave that alone, plus 3 times the square root of 9 times 6. And what's the square root of 9, guys? 3. So I get 2 square root 6 plus 3 times 3 square root 6. What's 3 times 3? So I get 2 square root 6 plus 9 square root 6. What's 9 plus 2? 11 square root 6. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Why don't you guys try number 12 on your own, and then we'll see if we get the right answer. Try number 12 on your own. I'll try it too, and then we'll compare answers. So instead of playing your phones right now, it'd be a really good idea if you tried number 12, and see if you know what you're doing. Okay. You ready? Anybody who's tried it? What'd you guys get?
Oh, wait, no.
Number 12. Who has an answer for number 12? Anybody? Number 12? Okay, you ready? I did 3 square root 3, kept it the same. Minus, instead of 27, I put 9 times the square root. Square root of 9 times 3. Square root of 9 is 3. And then 3 square root 3 minus 3 square root 3 gives me 0. Okay, let's try a couple hard ones in the back, because the back gets real complicated. What do you think? Maybe one of these 4 at the bottom? Do you guys have a preference? You want to do 25, 26, 27, or 28? 27. Okay. 28? Okay. So, I'm looking at these, and I've got square root of 27, 45, 20, 45. Okay, so probably I'm not going to get all 4 of these to go together. So it's probably like 2 and 2. Well, these are both, say, 45 in them, right? So let's group those together. So I've got negative square root 27 minus the square root of 20 minus 3 square root 45 plus 2 square root 45. Okay? All right. So what's the square root of 45? What 2 numbers go into 45 where one's a perfect square? So it ends with a 5. 15 is not a perfect square. What's a smaller number that goes into 45? So 2 doesn't go in there evenly, right? 9 and 9 times what gives me 45? 5. So I'm going to go negative 3 square root 9 times 5 plus 2 times square root 9 times 5. What's the square root of 9, guys?
3.
So I'm going to take that 3 to the outside for both of them. Okay. And I'm going to get negative 9 square root 5 plus 6 square root 5. And I'm going to leave it just like that because I have these other two that I want to see if I can come up with something. So what goes into 27 evenly that's a perfect square? 3 and 9. Good. So negative 27 becomes negative 9 times 3. And what is the square root of 9? 3. So I'm going to get negative 3 square root 3. Okay? What about negative 20? What goes into negative 20 evenly? Not negative 20, 20. 5 and 4. Okay, so I'm going to get, the square root of 4 is 2, so I'm going to get negative 2 square root 5. Okay, now let's look at which ones we have the same. The square root 3 doesn't do us any good because none of those have square root 3 in them. But all three of these I could put together. So I'm going to bring that negative 3 square root 3 down. Negative 2 and a negative 9 makes negative 11, right? Plus 6 gives me negative 5 square root 5. That's my final answer. Do you want to do another one like that? Do you want to do 26, 25, 27?
26.
26? Okay. All right. So for 26, all of these are square root 20, right? So let's just put those together. 2 minus 1 is 1. 1 plus 3 is 4. So we have 4 square root 20 minus 2 square root 45. So right there I made it much simpler, right? Okay. What times what gives me 20 where one of them is a perfect square? 2 and 10 doesn't work because neither of them are perfect squares. 5 and 4. Good. And what's the square root of 4? Okay. And what's 4 times 2? 8. Do you see how a lot of this is just keeping track and making sure you bring your numbers down? Okay. All right. 45. What two numbers go into 45 that where one's a perfect square? 9 and 5. What's the square root of 9?
3.
Okay. What's 3 times 2?
6.
So we get negative 6 square root 5. Okay, now can these two go together? So what's 8 minus 6? 2. So we get 2 square root 5 is my final answer. So it's just keeping track and moving it down. Okay? Now, I'm giving you, I was going to give you all of these. Do you want just the evens? Evens. So you only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 to do. That's not bad. Okay, so I'm going to give you the evens. I'm going to give you the odds plus 7 more to do for homework tomorrow night. Okay? And I'll do some more of these for them. Okay? All right. I'll change it to the evens.